Vantage Business News at 9. My name is Richmond Bassi and I'll be your host for tonight. Welcome back. First of all, we're going to have a brief on Tony's business background. We're going to look at his entrepreneurial process. So from what we see in our reports, Tony Caldiera has achieved greatness already in the cushion industry in Europe, but his business was being ruined by cheap Chinese imports. And then looking at his entrepreneurial process, we see that Tony's his entrepreneurial process involved both personal and environmental factors. First, we look at analyzing this with the entrepreneurial determinants framework. We see that the triggering events that caused Tony to move his business over to China, firstly, was the cheap Chinese imports that were taking away his business. So we see firstly that Tony was really a risk taker because he took out a loan of £2 million to set up a factory in China. This is a completely strange terrain, completely new market. He had no idea of what the Chinese market was like. And then again, we look at his implementation strategies. We see that Tony, indeed, being new to China and the culture in China was different. He displayed visionary and good management skill as a good leader in attending the trade fair in China, despite the fact that he hadn't, established his factory yet in China. The cultural difference did not stop him. He went ahead to build his team, and international staff. He was looking for staff. He went ahead to organize employment. So as a team builder, we see that he started hiring even before he ever secured his factory. And that shows very good ambiguity tolerance in trusting, the building of his factory into the hands of someone that he didn't know too much to be the wife or the in-law of his business partner. And last but not the least, we saw that growth. And in the end, towards the end of the interview, we saw that Tony Caldiera, having built his business, having gotten his factory established, took proactive steps to move over to New York to host, a networking event to bring in the big orders. We saw that this guy really is on top of his game. And looking at Tony, he seems to be quite of an entrepreneur. But firstly, what we're going to do tonight, we're going to start to analyze what Tony did. And then first, we're going to start with seeing how globalization was at work here with Tony Caldiera's business. Over to you, Eugene.
Thank you for that, Richmond. We're now at Queen Mary University, where I'm joined by Bola Mackenzie.
Hello, Eugene.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
He's a specialist in the realm of globalization, and he'll be able to take us through the effects that it's had on the global cushion industry. And in what sense would you say that's affected the global cushion market, and what has it done to firms, domestic and foreign?
Yeah, Eugene, in order to understand how globalization has affected the global cushion markets, it is important to understand the pre-globalization era and the post-globalization era. You see, the era of the pre-globalization era was dominated by limited foreign trade and an increase in domestic trade, and there was this came about as a result of lack of advancement in the area of information technology and, let's say, maybe relations, maybe international relations among countries. But the post-globalization era was dominated more by the advancements in information technology. Let's take the internet that you guys use, for instance, now, and a better communication and improvements in relations among countries. So there's an advancement in trade relations, and this brought about more dividends to the concept of globalization. So as a result, there was more trade in between countries. There was an increase in competition among countries. There was a surge in the Chinese markets. They were able to move into the European markets, but that was because there was there was a lower cost in terms of costs. The companies in Europe, they were able to maximize profits in terms of competitive advantage, take advantage of the cheap labor in the Asian countries and the likes.
So you're saying that countries such as China, for example, had benefit when it came to labor costs?
Absolutely.
So people moved their globalization production to those countries?
Yeah, if you look at the concept of the BRIC nations, for instance, now, countries such as China and India, like China, for instance, they have 1.3 billion in terms of population. So the European companies were able to take advantage of this labor force over in China and utilize it to their own advantage.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that, Bola.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Now I'll be sending this straight back over to you, Richmond. Hopefully that was helpful. I'll see you guys soon.
Thank you very much, Eugene. Okay, now, so we are very clear on the effect of globalization, but the question remains, why China? We have a correspondent, Alisa, who is going to be speaking with an experienced businessman to attempt to answer the question, why China? Over to you, Alisa.
Good afternoon, Vladimir. Tell me please about your business.
It all started like 5 years ago as a family business in UK, but about a year or two we're producing luxury towers. A year or two we fell into bankruptcy. We were outblown by a number of competitors who just had lower price with the same quality. And after the bankruptcy I've taken one gap year and researched the market, why it's so, and then just went to China and established business there.
Yeah, I know that you outsource the manufacturing to China, but what factors influence your decision?
First of all, it's lower manufacturing costs, about like 70 or 80% lower than to produce in Europe. Secondly, there is much more flexibility in terms of business itself. It includes social corporate responsibility. It includes just the easiness how you can start the production. And then Europe is full of bureaucracy. Well, in China, you just need to know the factory owner. You should have an idea and potential niche market. You just start doing it. And the third factor is that the China consumer market grows rapidly in recent years. Currently there are about like 1.3 billion people there. So I can see that present time most of our sales they happen in China.
Okay, thank you for the interview, Vladimir.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Alyssa.
Based on the case study and story of another businessman, it's possible to conclude that the cost driver is crucial. Low manufacturing costs, cheaper labor, and are the main reasons to do business in China. Other motivation to focus on this particular location includes positive trends in economic growth of China, as well as high population who could be a potential customers of the product.
Thank you very much, Alisa. You're welcome back to the studio. So we have today with us in the studio, Alwin. Alwin is a business analyst and he's going to be giving us a strategy brief on Tony Caldiera. Alwin, tell us about the entry moves.
Well, looking at it, how Tony decided to enter the market of China, we're dealing with an equity-based approach here, and more specifically a greenfield investment, meaning he had no private facilities in the area and invested into it.
You just went.
Exactly.
Yeah.
These are the basic characteristics of a greenfield investment. Now, non-equity-based approaches such as licensing or franchising weren't really an option for him anyway because he had no manufacturing behind it due to his factory being foreclosed. Now, greenfield investment does have multiple advantages to it. For example, you have complete control of your equity and the operation activities. You have you can protect your knowledge and the know-how and also your technology, and also you have a high ability to coordinate global activities if you choose to go that route. There are multiple downsides to it too, however. It's very expensive, high risk, high development costs, and you also have a relatively slow market entry speed.
What about his alternatives? What were his alternatives?
Well, other equity-based approaches that he could have taken, for example, would have been a joint venture. Joint ventures would have had the advantage of that he could have been able to share costs and risks, and also he would have had access to another company's knowledge as well as assets. Now, but he does seem to have the necessary knowledge to open up his factory, as we saw in the video. Downsides to joint ventures are obviously every time you deal with another company you have diverging goals and interests and also limited control. You're not in full control of your own fate.
Okay.
Another equity-based approach would have been mergers and acquisition, meaning he would have had to acquire or merge with a different company. Here, a big advantage would have been very fast entry speed, because you also already have a company over there in the market, you're just joining with them. Downsides, integration problems. When you merge another company, you're trying to get your knowledge and their knowledge together, it can always cause friction there. Exactly.
All right, that's beautiful. Thank you so much, Alvin. Thank you for coming to the studio. And last but not the least, we'll look at the critical strategies that Tony used. And we'll have our correspondent on the field, Shafak, who is all the way in Chinatown. Shafak, over to you.
Thank you, Richmond. Now we are at the heart of China in London, Chinatown. And we will try to critically evaluate Tony's process, going over some frameworks. The relevant frameworks that we can use here are based on country-based advantages and frameworks, and also firm-specific advantages. There is the CAGE framework, which takes into account cultural, administrative, geographical, and also economic distance, so that you can evaluate if it's really worth going to China, going as far as China. And we have Pestel theories, which take into account political, economic, legal, and environmental theories. We can also link this with the OLE framework, which talks about ownership, location, and internationalisation capabilities. So, as we saw in the story of Tony, he took a risk. So, risks are equal to kind of dangers plus opportunities. There is a huge opportunity of market in China. There are millions of customers, and they would be willing to be a potential market for Tony's business. But at the same time, they lack the managerial capabilities there. The labor is cheap, but it's not really qualified. If you make some investments, the administrative and the local frameworks are really welcoming you, but it's hard to see what will happen in the future. So the competition is also kind of intriguing, because people can copy your product in minutes and then you can lose your market. So we see that Tony has really made a big move, because he's one of the first British people going there in business and in cushion industry. But will he be able to establish a brand? Will he be able to have a sustainable competitive advantage over there? These are the questions. And these frameworks can help us answer if he will be successful or not. So we can say that, taking into all these frameworks, he has made a big move, and he has made it in the right direction, because it was risky, but it had a huge potential. But now he has to establish a brand, he has to really take into and transfer all his management and quality capabilities to China in order to succeed, even after 10 years.
Thank you, Shafak. You're welcome back to the studio. And now that we've had a deep dive into the Tony Caldiera's business case, we're going to invite our consultants to the studio to give us a final verdict and provide solutions for the future success of Tony's business. Stay with us.
Thank you, Richmond. But this recommendation is not only for Tony, but for all businessmen who are going to China. We consider that it's necessary to do analysis of current situation of the market. It's crucial to estimate risks, and businessmen should make efficient investments.
I would also add to that the recommendation of networking. It's important to organise events where you can meet local businessmen that have previously succeeded, in order to get a grasp of the local culture, because no one knows more about China than the local businessmen.
And I would also add to that some framework approach, like the VRIO framework, which mentions the value, rarity, imitability, and the organization questions when you are going to go for sustainable success. So it asks the questions of, is the firm able to exploit the value for the product in its full potential? Is the controlled source or resources rare? So does it only belong to these companies? And is it easy to copy, easy to imitate? And is the organization ready to go for such a success?
And we'll send that back over to you, Richmond. Talk to you soon.
Thank you to our consultants, and I hope that you learned something with us today on Vantage Business News. Till next time, see you later. Bye-bye.